Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. We need to talk about Elune. Something is going on with her, and I think it could be very important to the future of the game. Now, Elune has always been very mysterious, a kind of spiritual entity, quite unlike the Titans of the Naru, who we can literally just go and talk to. Elune is the center of the Night Elf religion and an important part of the Tauren belief system as well. And as time has went on, Blizzard have dropped more and more hints about her, things which raise questions about her nature that could have quite wide lore implications. And most recently we went to Loon Area, and then of course Elune has been mentioned a few times in Legion. Now there's a lot to this video, so stick with me, but trust me, this gets onto some really interesting stuff. Okay, we'll start off with Loon Area, we'll then come back to it later on for the mind blow part of the video, but as you know, we journeyed to Loon Area, which is ANR's hideout in the Antorus raid. Now even before we get into the deeper information here, it is a bit strange that ANR is in somewhere called Loon Area. It kind of calls into question, like, are those characters connected? Now, this is a question that Blizzard, I think, have been, they've been toying with, and doing that for a while. So, remember Ysera, remember how she died? Well, we think, Elune takes her spirit, turns it into the constellation. Well, here's the thing, though. Ysera is something that both Elune and ENR have in common. Way back in the day, ENR was the Titan who blessed Ysera, making her a dragon aspect. And then, of course, when she dies, the constellation thing happens with, we think, Elune. Does that mean Elune is just the same entity operating under two different names? Something we'll be exploring in this video. Now, of course, this all happened while we were hunting down the Tears of Elune. Well, just after Ysera's spirit was dealt with, then that's when the Tears of Elune appeared. And the Tears are very strange things. So, you see that the other pillars of creation are named after titans. You've got the Eye of Aman'Thul, the Tidestone of Gul'Ganeth, the Aegis of Agrimar, and the Hammer of Khaz'goroth. Now those represent 4 of the 6 titans who make up the Pantheon, with the final 2 titans being Norgannon and Eonar. Who do the Tears represent? Clearly it must be one of the Titans. Well, we can kind of solve this by eliminating Norgannon. There is an artifact called the Discs of Norgannon which automatically record the history of the planet. I've got to wonder, could that be like his sort of powerful artifact thing? Now, the lore of the pillars is that they were left in the hands of the Titan Keepers to, help them, so I think this could work out, but of course that is speculation doing that with Norgannon. But even without that, Eonar and Elune do actually seem a bit closer anyway, thematically. They both got the white glowing eyes thing in their depictions, and moon magic typically is not light, it's typically arcane, and of course Titans are arcane aligned beings. Now this all would make you think that Eonar and Elune might actually be the same thing. When we think about the timelines here, so Elune was first praised by Night Elves around 14,000 years ago. This was after the Pantheon was defeated by Sargeras, so the idea of Eonar's essence essentially like being in Loon Area as Elune, that makes sense actually in terms of the timelines. Though of course you got to keep in mind there is the weird 7.3 retcon where, the Titan spirits supposedly went into the Keepers, but that's not what actually happened because Iminar, the Soul Hunter, seems to have got them all bar Eonar, so there's a bit of an inconsistency between Chronicle and the game. But yeah, the point is that the timelines do actually allow for Eonar's soul and Elune, as it, is understood by the Night Elves, to be the same thing. Now, I really like the idea of Eonar being able to sort of help out Azeroth from behind the scenes while trying to keep a low profile. I think that's kind of cool for a character. Now, if there wasn't a connection between Elune and Eonar, then, why would we go and visit Eonar in a place called Loon Area? It doesn't make sense. It's got Elune's name in it. Now, I was searching for more information on Loon Area, and I saw a mind blow. Pyromancer. Holy shit, great video. Okay, so basically he found that the moon at the floor of the Sisters of the Moon encounter in the Tomb of Sargeras has the same texture as the planet that you can see close to Loon Area in the skybox. When you look at Loon Area, you can see a blue body and a white body, so these seem to line up with Azeroth's 2 moons. This could mean that Loon Area is a satellite object of the main moon that we think of as Elune, perhaps. Now, we do know that there's, more than just the 2 moons in the Azeroth system in space, as we can see in the various different star maps. So, that's kind of cool. Us not seeing Loon Area from Azeroth might not be a big problem. I mean, try to look for Mars with your eyes. It's a bit tricky. Now, this does get blasted down by one potential issue that I can kind of speak to, because I've done a bit of game dev stuff. Basically, when you're developing a game, the enemy is the budget. So game devs, they've got to be crafty when it comes to reusing their resources in an interesting manner to do less work, because the budget's the enemy. So it could be that Blizzard are just reusing a texture for planets, and that's pretty much it. That said, the Loon Area texture, it seems to be at a higher resolution than the, say, the Star Augur planets, which, you know, that could just be the same asset being created, it's at multiple resolutions, or it could be that it's a separate asset, that looks the same at a higher detail level, which would mean that this is more intentional. But still, even if you think about the names, Elune Area and ENR being there, there's a strong connection regardless of the speculation to do with those textures. And interestingly enough, this works with both the idea of Elune and ENR being the same thing and the idea of them being separate, as Elune harboring the essence of ENR would be a pretty reasonable, cool plot thing to happen. There is quite a lot more to this though. So, Khadgar believes that Zera was created by Elune, and we did see that the Heart of Light, which was the core of Zera, was activated using the Tears of Elune. So this gives us a link between Elune and the Naru. Now, if Elune and ENR are the same thing, and they have this link to the Naru, this has very large implications for the rest of the lore. So we're still in a bit of a state where it's kind of tricky knowing what the origins of the Naru are, and I think when we find that out, that just really will be a bit of a mind-blow moment, and, will have very big implications for the future story of the game. Now, from my view, I always sort of assumed that Elune was like the opposite of a Void Lord. It was kind of like a Light Lord, but again, we don't really know at this stage. But getting back to things, if it turns out that Elune is actually separate from ENR, that Elune basically stowed ENR away, then the idea of Elune being Light Lord very much is in play. When you look at the planet near Elune, which is the one that matches the floor from the Sisters of the Moon area, then, things are actually quite dire. There seems to be a corruption and damage there. Now, the idea of a Light Lord, or, the creator of the Naru being corrupted by Void, that's something that's a tremendous threat. Now, that said, the Void Lords apparently can't really take a physical form yet, so the idea of a Light Lord chilling out in this planet might not make too much sense. Now, I have also seen people propose that Elune is a Titan world soul. That would contradict the idea of Azeroth being the final Titan, which is something that is currently believed by the Pantheon, and to be honest with you, I would imagine they know a lot more about that than we do. But wow, yeah, that's just dense, so let's talk about the implications. If Elune and ENR are the same, then it's going to be a hit to the Night Elves. It's going to cause them to rethink lifelong beliefs. Now also, ENR is a bit preoccupied at the minute, so if they are the same thing, and we suddenly see the Night Elves pretty much lose their connection to Elune because Elune is locked technically in the seat of the Pantheon, then that again will have really, big effects on the Night Elves. And if we have a Night Elf plot thread where they mysteriously get cut off from Elune, then maybe that's like a sort of a side confirmation of the fact that they are indeed the same thing. Now, if they are actually separate entities, then this could be a way of them introducing us to Elune. And if Elune is a new type of being, so not a Titan, Naru, Demon, or Old God, then this connection could be used to really expand the cosmic lore of World of Warcraft, maybe just getting us to understand more about like what a Void Lord is and introducing us to that concept and that threat. Also, the opposite of, Void is light, and Khadgar, if Khadgar is right in thinking that Elune created Zera, then is Elune a Light Lord, I guess? It's kind of tricky, just the implications of all this stuff. Honestly, my head's starting to hurt, and we haven't even brought up Xal'atath yet. Yes, come on, you really thought I'd do a lore video without having a Xal'atath quote in there somewhere? So Xal'atath calls Elune an upstart goddess in the tomb of Sargeras, and when you think about her tone when she says that, what could it mean? It almost sounds like Xal'atath regards her as some sort of traitor. Now, the idea of the shadow and light being a duality is something Blizzard have been playing with a lot recently, and of course Xal'atath does also consider the Naru to be, quote, long-lost brethren, so again, this makes this link stronger. So if Elune and ENR are separate beings who helped each other out recently, then the idea of Elune being a Light Lord and all of these connections coming into play, and Khadgar being sort of correct about this Zera creation stuff, then that's very much possible. But if Elune and ENR are the same, then it does get really strange. Xal'atath calling Elune an upstart goddess also kind of suggests that Xal'atath might know that Elune is just ENR undercover because the way she says that, but that is a little bit of a stretch. Oh man, so this has been a really dense video, and I'm just going to tie things up. The core takeaway for me here is that anytime you see something be underexplained, and there's a lot of mystery there, it's a big opportunity for future plot development, especially when you're running an MMO that has lasted longer than anyone thought. And also, you're kind of running out of villains when you think about it. So, I think that we can almost be sure that Blizzard are looking at Elune and they are thinking, what role could she play in the future, and where could we take the lore to create a new expansion pack? Because we're really running out of villains. So let me know what you think about this whole topic, about the texture sort of conspiracy stuff, and just about the role of Elune. I'm really keen to hear what everyone's reading this is. So thanks for watching, let me know, and I'll see you later.